Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Lounge radio show, where we expose the myths of entrepreneurship and release the weight of it all. Real people, real issues, and real talk with expert solutions. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show as we welcome our host, Alesha Brown, the Joy Guru.
So hello. This is Alesha Brown, the Joy Guru. And today I am thrilled because I have a special guest to interview, someone that I enjoy talking to, working with, and just exploring the depths of life in general. But before I make that formal introduction, I want to say that I'm just glad to be back in this seat. I teased a few months ago, if you're a follower of the broadcast, that, I would be back. But as I always say, life be life. And so I'm finally here. Thank you for your patience. But in the past few years, we've covered everything from imposter syndrome and domestic violence to millionaire success and is depression ruining your business. But today we're going to explore something different, something that's very important, as well as, to entrepreneurs as well as individuals. And that is type A personality unmasked, the truth behind society's most admired personality trait. Now, type A personalities, I had a blog post on thejoyguru.net that talked about this. Type A personalities are well revered in society. We have people like Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs. They're all considered type A personalities. And one of the reasons is because they're high achieving, they're uberly successful, but there's also a dark side that comes with that sometimes. Some of the highly revered people are also on the inside known to be narcissistic. Sometimes they have toxic environments that they produce, although they have this high achieving and successful track record. They're also known to be equally sometimes as destructive. So I can't think of a better person today to kick off this discussion than Pastor Janice L. Jones. I want to give you a brief introduction to the wealth of knowledge in her background. Pastor Janice L. Jones is the founder of WISDM Ministries, Women of Integrity Serving Dedicated, Mission Minded. She's been in ministry for over 20 years as a human resource development practitioner. And as she and I love to say, while she's not a licensed therapist, under human resource development, she conducts research, analyzes, assesses, develops, recommends, trains, and evaluates programs, individuals, groups, and teams. Now, Wisdom Ministry is a nonprofit 501c3 organization serving the DC, Maryland, Virginia, we also call it the DMV area, focused on providing exemplary learning and personal development services to that area's ministries, nonprofits, and residents. So if you will help me officially welcome Pastor L. Jones to the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show and podcast. Hey, Pastor Jones, how are you doing today?
I am awesome. I am so excited to be here. This is just a wonderful opportunity and privilege to come here today on your forum and just really talk about these really important issues concerning the type A personality, because a lot of people don't think about it and they don't know about it. They just hear, oh yeah, I'm type A, but what does that really mean? What does that really mean? And what does that really look like? Especially the negative side. Because let's face it, man always focuses on the negative, never the positive, because the negative, unfortunately, cast a shadow over the positive. And unfortunately, that's what we've seen with the personality type A. So yeah, I'm excited. I love it. I love it.
And I'm excited to have you here. And thank you for accepting the invitation because I know you're a busy woman. Even this morning, Wisdom Ministries had a brunch. So, just taking the time with us and expounding upon this, we are extremely appreciative. But, you and I, we could talk for hours on any topic.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to dive right into this because this is so, so important. And of course, it's the Entrepreneurs Lounge, but this is important to entrepreneurs as well as society at large. And I do want to give this disclaimer. Although we're discussing faith and spirituality, our platform is never trying to force our beliefs on anyone. But however, we've never shied away from controversy or differing viewpoints. So spirituality is one of those areas that have to be included, especially in discussions like this. But before we explore the spiritual side, Pastor Jones, what is the origin of the type A personality? How did this become a thing?
Well, I'm not going to get real deep into all of the background because I don't know if you have let them know. I do have an upcoming seminar about this. So I don't want to give all the good stuff away, but I will
Right.
say this. I will say this. Friedman and Rosenman, those are two cardiologists, two doctors from the early 70s, and they had a practice. And they noticed that there were some quirks, if you will, about their patients, a lot of their patients. And they, of course, were talking and had some hypotheses, as all research usually begins with. They observed some behavior, analyzed, came up with some hypotheses, did some studies, some very in depth studies, and they came to the conclusion that type A personality, those individuals that have that specific personality, tend to carry issues, severe issues within their health, high blood pressure, which of course leads to cardiovascular issues or heart problems, stroke, heart attack, etc. Type A personalities, and of course, you can Google it. You will find the characteristics: pressure, high pressure, perfectionist. Everything has to be a certain way. Competition is a big part of that type A personality. So I began to reflect on this because I know I'm a type A personality. So I said, I'm going to dig deeper, deeper. But those two cardiologists, they discovered the type A personality. And then it gave birth to the other personality traits because there is type B, type C, and type D.
You
So
know, that was what was alarming to me when we first started this, just so people that are aware. My team and I, we are the film producer and production for this seminar with WISDM Ministries. And it was like when we were going over the research that you were providing and doing some of my own, I was like, wait a minute. Because as you just shared, I'm also a type A personality. And I'm just like, cardiologist. And then when I read what you said, I'm like, oh God, this explains so much in my life. So it's like, people that feel like, there's a price for success, blah, 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 blah. Just knowing that this personality type or the personality types were discovered by cardiologists, that says a lot. And then as you alluded to, or not alluded to, you actually shared those findings of some of the disease and illnesses that type A personalities have. That's alarming. And that just shows why this is so important to examine. A lot of the things that society will accept and they'll stress and they'll revere can have that dark side and not be so good for us. So, again, that's just in the natural, and that explains a lot. A lot of people, and I want to share a few examples. A lot of people have struggled with the perfectionism and then the relentless drive for success. I think many entrepreneurs can relate to that, but people in general. But I hope that the majority of us have not experienced the following. Of course, we know Steve Jobs was the former CEO of Apple, who's no longer with us. He was notorious for his temper and lack of empathy, which alienated many of his colleagues. Some would even say that he was cutthroat. And we know a lot of times in modern day society, that's okay. It doesn't matter who you have to step on as long as you go to the top, as long as you get what you're after, as long as you number one, you do what it takes. Or, I know most of us have heard this, you can rest when you die. But I've learned that, you know what, you might have an early death if that's what you take on. But they talk about, I'll just say allegedly for legal purposes, that his perfectionism had led to such a toxic work environment at Apple. And this is where narcissism and ego comes into play. And when I come back to you in a minute, and they really follow you, they'll find out, you are an expert when it comes to narcissism and can give us some more information. But even Elon Musk, Tesla and all, and Twitter or X and all the things he's highly successful in, that's the stress of, we can focus on workaholism and burnout, because Elon Musk on record, despite his success, and he has openly discussed his struggles with working 100-hour work weeks. Most of us understand 40, entrepreneurs, sometimes we do the 50, 60, and, we don't always have 40, but 100. And it talks about his relentless pace, which has led to exhaustion and extreme stress. And even if you go back in history, this isn't a new phenomenon. Even if you go back to Alexander the Great, he was considered a brilliant military strategist by many, but he was known for his violent temper and ego, which led to the alienation of his closest allies and eventual downfall. And that list goes on and on and on. But Pastor Jones, if you could put on your human resource development hat for now, definitely discuss the spiritual side in a moment. But from a natural perspective, how in the world can type A personalities, who are praised for being so highly driven and successful, ambitious, high achievers, strong leaders, etc., have such negative, destructive behaviors that often lead to their ruin and damnation and that of the people that they actually lead?
So I'm glad you asked that question and you asked me to put on my human resource development practitioner hat. So remember, we assess. And a lot of times, one of our favorite practices to do research is through observation, observing behaviors and how teams interact. And for me personally, it comes very easily, especially when I step in to a new area, whether it be on my job, whether it be in ministry, whether it be with volunteer work. If I'm working with groups, or even if I'm working with a partnership, I'm watching behavior. And one thing we have to understand, because you ask, how can these successful people have all this toxicity? Well, remember this, we all have what is out of the closet and what is locked in the closet. Okay. And what I mean by locked in the closet, everyone has trauma that they've turned into drama, and it comes out at specific times. And the problem is with trauma that turns into drama is because the trauma has never been dealt with. So it turns into drama, and family, friends, co-workers, colleagues, church members, members that you're in groups with, whether it be sororities or fraternities or advocacy groups, we all have to depend on one another to work together to fulfill a vision, a mission, and a goal. We all have personalities. And the problem is the company may be successful, but the people are miserable. And anytime I step into a position and there's a high turnover rate, I already know most of the time, not always, but most of the time, it's because of that top level, your higher leadership and management, who are affecting the lower, I don't want to call them lower, but who affect the employees, the subordinates. And what do people do when they're frustrated, when they feel attacked, and they have their own trauma that is being triggered because of someone else's behavior, and then that turns into drama, and then you have a kapow. They react, they act out. The same with children. If you have a parent that's parenting, especially a frustrated single mother because that dad has left, and then there's a trigger that has happened in that single parent's life, their trauma turns into drama. That child sees it and they react. And I often tell people, no one ever means when they're a little child. They don't say when they're playing with their dolls at the age of 2 and 3, when I grow up, I'm going to abuse my children. When I grow up, no. Trauma is given to a person. Trauma is meant out to a person. So all of these great people, they've been fantastic. They've been fantastic. However, their trauma, which was locked up in the closet, it eventually comes out, especially as type A, the perfectionist, the competition, having everything my way because I deem what I do as great and all of you are minions. So there comes in the narcissism spirit or personality. And we had the narcissism deliverance seminar back in April, and it was fantastic. And we talked about the history of narcissism, because what narcissism is control, type A is control as well. Either a person starts out with type A, goes into narcissism, or vice versa. But pretty much both of those personalities, but as we focus on the type A, it is a means of exacting that behavior to get to a common goal. But the problem is you get to the goal, but at what cost? And who suffers? Other people around you suffer and they don't want to have anything to do with you. You don't have time for your family. You're affecting your health. You don't know how to say no. You don't know how to be a quiet quitter and to live softly. And we're actually going to have a seminar talking about that. But you see what's happening. All of the, first we had the narcissism seminar, which came out of a book. And that's from my bishop. And we'll talk a little bit about that if we get an opportunity. And that's Bishop Donald Downing. And I know you've worked with him. And then now we're type A. And then we're going to go to the quiet quitting and the soft living. And that will be early next year. So there's building blocks that we're working here. Why do we have these building blocks? Because it's important for you to understand who you are and what you're dealing with and where it came from and how you need to get a handle on it. Because you cannot grow and you cannot exact change in your own life until you have the knowledge of who you are, why you are, and how you need to exact that change so that you can be a better you, not just for you, but for your environment, for your company, for your people, your family, your relationship. So I've said a lot. Let's keep it moving.
You know what? I'm just over here. Thank God I was on mute. because this is what she does to my listeners, my viewers. This is your first, if this is your first encounter with her, this is what she do. That's why I said we can talk hours on any topic. She just ignite that flame, and you'll be over there wanting to do like a jump kick, run around the room, shout.